Welcome to Vayani Tutors. In this session, we'll be learning about Unit 2, which carries 5 to 7.5% of the total weightage. We will first start with objects, that are instances of a class. Giving an overview about Java, Java is an object-oriented programming which can be used to model objects in the real world. We have seen that Java programs start with a public class, where a class defines a new data type or a blueprint for objects. Now, when we come to objects, they are nothing but the variables created from a class definition, and also they are instances of class. Let us learn what are turtle classes. They are nothing but blueprint for turtle objects, which defines the attributes for graphical turtles like their color, position, and methods to make the turtles move. Usually, a dot operator is used to run an object's method. We can also call the dot method as something asking the object to do something or execute one of its methods. For example, if we write YurtleForward asks the turtle Yurtle to go forward. The parentheses after a method name are there in case you need to give the method some arguments, or if you want to put some data inside to do its job. For example, if you want the turtle to go forward of 50 pixels, you write it here as 50. This is the way we try to create a turtle. Or when you write a class like turtle class, we create many objects of a class type. In the code below, two turtle objects are created. Those are Yurtle and Mytle. We can name our turtle and add in a line like the following in the main method to make it move. Now let us learn about creating and initializing objects using constructors. A Java class defines what objects of the class know, which we call it as attributes, and what they can do or behaviors. Each class has constructors like world and turtle or habitat, which are used to initialize the attributes in a newly created object. A new object is created with the new keyword followed by the class. When this code executes, it creates a new object of the specified class and calls a constructor, which has the same name as the class. If we go and see for an example, new world creates and initializes a new object of the world class, and new turtle habitat creates and initializes a new turtle object in the world habitat. Let us see the code below. We have given some comments over here so that you understand what this code means. Now let us see overloading constructors. They can be more than one constructors defined in a class, which is known as overloading the constructor. There is usually a constructor that has no parameters, that is, nothing inside the parenthesis following the name of the constructor, like the world constructor given above. This is also known as no argument constructor. The no argument constructor usually sets the attributes of the object to default values. There can also be other constructors that take parameters like the turtle habitat. A parameter, which is also known as actual parameter or argument, is the value that is passed into the constructor. It can also be used to initialize the attribute of an object. The world class actually has two types of constructors. One that doesn't take any parameters, like world habitat 1 is equal to new world has no parameters. and the other one that takes world's width and height. The constructors like this that takes no parameters creates a graphical window with 640 into 840. The constructors that doesn't take any parameters like this one creates a graphical window with 640 into 480 pixels, and the world int width int height, this one creates a 300 into 400 world. Learning about world class constructors, the constructor that doesn't take any parameter like this one creates a graphical window with 640 into 480 pixels. The world with int and width and int height, constructor takes two integer parameters and initializes the world object's width and height to them. For example, new world 300 in, 400 creates a 300 into 400 pixel world. Similarly, the turtle class also has multiple constructors, although it always requires a world as a parameter in order to have a place to draw the turtle. The default location for the turtle is right in the middle of the world. There is another turtle constructor that places the turtle in a certain xy coordinate location in the world. For example, if the coordinates are 50 and 100, then remember the order of the parameters matter. The turtle constructor that takes x, y, world as parameters in that order, if we mix up the order of the parameters, it will cause an error because the parameters will not be the data types that it expects. This is the one reason why programming languages have data types to allow for error checking. Now let us see what are object variables and references. Object variables, we can declare and initialize it to null, that is turtle t1 is equal to null. An object variable holds a reference. A reference is a way to find the object in the memory. It is like a tracing number that you can use to track the location of a package. Now let us analyze the code. Turtle t1 is equal to null. The code turtle t1 is equal to null creates a variable t1 that refers to a turtle object. But the null means that it doesn't refer to an object yet. We could later create the object and set the object variable to refer that new object, or more commonly one can declare an object variable and initialize it in the same line of code. If to be written in more detail, now let us learn about constructor signatures. Like the turtle class that we used above, we can see these are already written for you in the library, which you can import and use. We can look up how to use the constructors and methods in the documentation for that class. The documentation will list the signatures or headers of the constructors or methods, which will tell you their name and parameter list. The parameter list in the header of a constructor lists the formal parameters, declaring the variables that will be passed in values as their data types. Constructors are overloaded when there are multiple constructors, but the constructors have different signatures. They can differ in the number type or order or parameters. Now moving on to formal and actual parameters. When a constructor like date given with parameters like 2020 is known as formal parameters, like year, month, day, are set to copies of the actual parameters or arguments. This is called by value, which means that copies of the actual parameter values are passed to the constructor. These values are used to initialize the object's attributes. Please note the type of values being passed in as arguments have to match the type of formal parameter variables. We cannot give a constructor a string object when it is expecting an int. The order of the arguments also matter. If you mix up the month and the day in the date constructor, you will get a completely different date. For example, if we start to write 10 instead of x, the whole meaning changes. That is 2020, 10, 6 means 6th of October 2020, and if you write 2020, 6, 10, then it becomes 10th of June 2020. In the coming sessions, we'll learn more about the objects, calling methods with parameters, without parameters, and returning values, etc. Thank you.